and green, that means it's on. Yep, it's on. And this little green dot. If it's a red dot, I don't think it's.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Fond du Lac City Council. Our first item of business is a roll call. It's done electronically. I will declare a quorum is present. Next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent reflection. At this time, I ask you to please rise. Thank you all. At this point, we're going to begin with some proclamations this evening. First up is the proclamation recognizing Denny Vokes' retirement. Meeting up front. Solid. All right, you guys. We'll begin with the proclamation. Whereas Denny J. Vokes retires from the City of Fond du Lac Police Department on March 1st, 2024, and whereas he began his career as a correctional officer for the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office in October of 1995 before becoming a Fond du Lac police officer on March the 15th of 1999. And whereas Denny has faithfully served his community with honor, integrity, and professionalism, protecting the citizens of Fond du Lac wherever and wherever he was needed. And whereas during the course of Denny's career, he assisted the FDLPD in the pursuit of its mission by serving in several specialized capacities, including as a school resource officer at the Fond du Lac High School, street crimes unit officer, Lake Winnebago Area Metropolitan Enforcement, Narcotics Task Force, SWAT tactical operator, and whereas Denny was an integral part of several high-profile cases in his career that included the apprehension and arrest of hundreds of suspect drug dealers, large seizures of cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and fentanyl, with a street value of over $10 million. And whereas the city wishes to thank Denny for being a part of the team of officers dedicated to making Fond du Lac one of the safest and welcoming cities in the nation. Now, therefore, I, Keith Heisler, President of the Fond du Lac City Council, by my signature affixed, do hereby recognize Officer Denny J. Vokes for 25 years of dedicated service to the citizens of Fond du Lac, and I extend the city's best wishes for a long and prosperous retirement. And Denny, at this time, it's my honor to give you the key to the city. Yep. See, that's all we got to pass around. You betcha. You got it. You want to say anything, or Chief, if you want to say anything?
I just want to say a couple things.
You betcha. That's yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. I work for the PD now for 25 years. They've taught me a lot of things. Speeches are not one of them, so this is going to be very short. Thank you to the City Council and City of Fond du Lac for presenting me this proclamation. It's an honor to receive this. I have lived here in Fond du Lac for the last 35 years. This is my home, so it's an honor to serve this community, and I love this community. Second thing is the PD itself. I can't say enough about our police department. I worked with hundreds of investigators throughout the entire state of Wisconsin, so I know what their departments are like, and I can honestly tell you, we are the best department, in my opinion, in the state of Wisconsin. No question about it. No question. And it's a privilege to be a part of the department. So thank you, Chief. The last thing I want to touch on is my family. If there's anybody that needs notification or recognition or receive a proclamation, it's them. Any family of a law enforcement officer knows they're the ones in the trenches. They're the ones worried late at night if we're coming home, missing their activities in school and in sports. So I thank you. to my lovely daughter, Susan, my two handsome boys, Sam and Henry, and to my beautiful wife, Eleanor, who I couldn't have done it without you. I really couldn't, honey. You're the one who's the rock and kept the glue and the family together. So I love you very much, and thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
All right, now I get to recognize Lynn Gillis's retirement, which means Lynn and your family, come on down. I think you win a big spin on the city council wheel of retirement. I think that's how this works. All right, my friend, we're going to start with the proclamation. Whereas Lynn Gillis is retiring from the City of Fond du Lac Transit Division on March 4th, 2024, and whereas Lynn has been a valued employee since November 13th, 2003, serving the citizens of Fond du Lac as transit manager to faithfully and safely assist riders with transportation to work, errands, school, medical appointments, and back home again. And whereas Lynn has written and obtained several state and federal transit grants, prepared and managed many operational and capital budgets, and has led and managed the recent update to the Transit Development Plan, and has received a perfect score on the Federal Transit Authority unit. And whereas Lynn has trained and mentored many drivers and assistants, implemented many conveniences for drivers and passengers alike, such as the GPS, the bus location app, mobile phone pay, free Wi-Fi on the buses, and has implemented free fare day and the buses to books program, transit education, and has always been a champion to make Fond du Lac Area Transit the best service for its citizens. And whereas the city wishes to thank Lynn for her outstanding leadership and legacy and commitment to the people of Fond du Lac, for her years of knowledge and expertise, you'll be greatly missed. Now, therefore, I, Keith Heisler, President of the Fond du Lac City Council, by my signature affixed, do hereby recognize Lynn Gillis for 20 years and 3 months of dedicated service to the city of Fond du Lac and extend our wishes for a long and prosperous retirement. Lynn, the coolest part of my job is being able to give people like you the key to the city.
Thank you.
You got some stuff. Go ahead.
Denny said he wasn't a good speech giver, but I think he's got me beat. I just wanted to thank the people that make transit possible in this city, our community partners, city council, city staff, transit administration, who is sitting right in front of me, our drivers, our customers, and most of all, my kids, who have put up with the crazy hours of this job and mom rushing off, being on call, and for the past 20 years. So thank you all.
All right. Next on our agenda is public hearings, and we have none. So we're going to move on to the consent agenda, which finalizes the proposed actions for the meeting. The consent agenda is A, February 14th, 2024 council minutes, and B, the list of claims dated February 21st, 2024. Questions or corrections to the consent agenda at this time? Seeing none of those, I'll entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Mr. Mullen. I need a second for that. Second by Ms. Riccio. Thank you both. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. And now we're on to our audience comments. Agenda and non-agenda items. The presiding officer shall limit speaking time for non-agenda items to 1 minute and items noticed on the agenda to 5. Ms. Scepter, do we have any motion to speak? All right, sounds good. Peggy Breister from 72 Walk-On Avenue, I'm going to bring you up first. She wants to discuss the noise ordinance.
Hi. Forgive me, I have laryngitis, so I will do my best to get through this. I appreciate the time to address you this evening. First, I've noticed that you have a resolution tonight regarding the trap, neuter, spay, release program. I know a lot of rescue organizations have put a lot of time and effort into this, and I just really appreciate that you guys are working on this. I think it's a really worthwhile situation in the city that needs to be taken care of. But my purpose here is in regard to the newer revised noise ordinance that you're considering. While this was discreetly introduced at the last meeting as ordinance updates, it's an issue of great concern to anyone concerned about noise in their neighborhood and community. I have that concern due to a project at the Fond du Lac County Fairgrounds that the city and this council has supported with a financial contribution of about $350,000. My concern, and this ordinance update kind of illustrates that concern, is that the stage project is moving forward with little transparency and no accompanying permitting and ordinances. That is what I'm asking you to consider tonight. Many cities have very detailed noise ordinances, permitting processes, alcohol use permits, neighborhood notifications, time limits, insurance risk policies, etc. for areas with outdoor venues. Without these, the city and county will be ill-prepared to run this venue, as will the police not have what they need in order to have jurisdictional issues taken care of. I do still think putting a $1.3 million concert venue in the middle of a residential neighborhood is short-sighted and ill-informed, but that's kind of beside the point at this point. Those of us who've spoken against this have been accused of being against the Fond du Lac County Fair. That's just not true. What we oppose and what we've been subjected to for the past few years is a location that's trying to monetize its buildings and grounds, and as a result, allowing events to take place there outside of the fair that have caused day and evening long disturbances to the neighborhoods around the area. This still wouldn't be so bad if we felt that we had recourse for help when our windows are rattling, our homes are vibrating, and the noise continues late into the evening. We have complained. We have spoken to the fairground managers. We have spoken to our elected representatives. We have called city and county law enforcement. Well, just about everyone I have talked to has said to me, yes, it's really loud. I've heard it too. We need to do something, and I wouldn't want to live where you do. Nothing has been proposed to address these issues. The project and ordinances like this one tonight have moved forward with no neighborhood involvement or input, and our calls to law enforcement are met with confusion on jurisdiction. Although I will say I think we're hopefully going to make some progress on some of those issues. This lack of clear jurisdiction, a lack of clear rules and regulations to guide the permitting process have left a very muddy process. Before you move forward, these issues must be taken care of. I've been told some events won't be held this coming year. I've been told the city's going to enforce the noise ordinance, but I'm wondering what guarantee you can give me. These are kind of words and empty promises, really, because we've been told a lot of things throughout this process, and yet everything has moved forward with little consideration of the impact of the noise on the neighborhoods from these events. This ordinance, which increases the decibels allowed in the city, doesn't seem to be moving in the right direction, and again, it's just an ordinance. It wasn't enforced before, and I'd like to know what assurances you can provide that it will mean anything now. Your job is to represent the people of this city and all residents of this city, including those who live in this area. We're entitled to the same peace and quiet that you expect in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Breister. We appreciate your time. Mr. Boda, you're up next. We're going to talk about demerit points.
Hello. As you all know, I'm against the demerit program as it's written. I'm not against demerit policy. You need that to basically keep tabs on who's not doing their job right as a bar operator. The current process does not produce a safer city for us. It gives us the fear of calling in for service because you're going to get points, you're going to get on the radar, you could lose your liquor license. So you have to make a judgment call over, do I call and provide a safer night for my guests and for the other people in the city, or do I not call? Can I afford the points? Nobody should fear calling the police. When I first started as a bar owner, I've always called. I'm pro-police. They have our backs, I have theirs. I want my people safe, I want them safe. We all are supposed to work together. And up till this recent event, where I literally am getting demerit points for saving a person's life, because I was seeing someone say something and I didn't even have to call it in. The guy left my bar. There was no trouble in my bar. I could have just not done anything. But my fear is by doing that, somebody could be hurt or killed. And I don't want that on my head. Brandon Johnson died and was found laying on Marquette Street on August 20th of 2022. And part of the reason that happened is someone didn't call. They could have, but they didn't. Part of this program could be part of that problem. We need to change this. When I was at the ALC meeting on Monday, I spoke to them. Staff simply wanted a rubber stamp to what they're recommending here tonight. They did not get that. They wanted to hear what my other suggestions were. I want you to not do anything with this program right now. Let me work with the ALC. Let's come up with a better plan that can meet the needs for the police officers to get what they want, to keep the bad bars in line, but at least get the phone calls coming in so we get these bad people out of our bars, off our streets, without a cost to our businesses. It's ridiculous to think that I can't have the same protection under the law that Walmart has or Kohl's has. They call in, nothing happens. They can call in 20 times a day and not one thing gets done to them. We call in that much, we could lose our liquor license. And just because we have a liquor license, it is a privilege. I agree with that. But we have all these other rules we have to follow. One of them is not losing the equal protection under the law that we are entitled to. That we are entitled to. We are all supposed to get it. Some of what this previous person here said, I understand her frustration because I'm frustrated. I never thought I was going to see demerit points for literally going above and beyond the call of duty that no other bar owner would have made that phone call on. We seen something, didn't like what we seen, we called to protect everybody. And instead of a public thank you that I thought I should have been entitled to, but wasn't looking for, I get a kick in the crotch with these demerit points. And I have to sit here and argue for something better. I have a better plan. I have 9 companies I run. I have this open mind. I think I have a better way that we can achieve the goal. Get the phone calls we need without the phone calls we don't need. Get the bars to do it the right way with the experiences I have. I would like a chance to make a better policy. So instead of us following what another community does across the state, we lead and they copy us. I think we can do that. But we got to work together because this city's not going to get safer if we don't all work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boda. We appreciate your comments. Savannah Haygood, you're next at 255 Grand Court and wants to talk on team building.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. So this is going to be pretty brief, but I am an operator for the city of Fond du Lac. I have been for the past 3 years, and we've gotten the privilege to do some team building activities. And very recently, yesterday, we went bowling, and it was really fun. It was short, it was during work hours, and it just gave us an opportunity to interact with some of the people that we don't normally get to interact with during the work days. We put all our names in a hat, and then we picked teams, and everyone was, cross-departmental teams. So you got to interact with some of your coworkers that you normally wouldn't, and I think opportunities like that are great. And I think that they are super cost-effective for the city, especially with employee retention being a struggle right now. If you can't find it in the budget to adjust cost of living or the step system, I think that team building hours are a very cost-effective way to boost morale and keep employee retention. And I believe on the agenda, or on the proposal, it's 4 hours. So that means we pretty much just spent our entire fund yesterday, and it would be another another entire year before we would get to do something like that again. So I recommend maybe 4 hours a quarter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Haygood. We appreciate those comments. Mr. McCord, you're up next, and resolution amending the employee handbook as well.
on a matter which I thought we all kind of had a good consensus on after the last meeting regarding, the employee handbook for team building. When I read the agenda for tonight and I seen that it still said 4 hours, I was kind of shocked after us talking of the benefits to all of us, and especially the citizens, to hopefully engage our employees to keep them around longer. It's just very disheartening to see that it hadn't changed from the previous meeting. And I hope you all understand the need to do better on keeping our employees that we do have with the limited resources available to us. This is a very cost-effective manner, and I just ask that you increase the maximum hours allowed per year, or at least add a clause that the department heads can, at their discretion, go above and beyond what's stated in this policy.
Thank you, Mr. McCord. We appreciate you. And I believe that wraps up our audience comments for this evening. Thank you all for your time. And with audience comments concluded, we're going to move on to our action items. Our first action item this evening is Resolution 9105, which is a resolution authorizing an appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission. Mr. Moore.
Thanks and good evening, everyone. This nomination is for Dr. Nevins Holmes to finish an opening that will last through the end of April of 2025 on the HPC. I recommend approval. You can see in her background, she's perfectly qualified to serve on the HPC, especially with her involvement with the Daughters of the American Revolution and some other nonprofits. So recommend approval. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Questions from council for Mr. Moore? Seeing none of those, I'll entertain the motion. Oh. Moved by Mr. Schuessler. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Zimmerman. Any further discussion? Ms. Riccio.
Is there anybody else that applied for this open appointment?
No, this is it.
Well, good job on all these appointments. We're getting really good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Riccio. Any further discussion? We've got a motion. We've got a second. At this point, let's proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone. We're going to move on to action item B, which is resolution 9106. That's a resolution amending the employee handbook regarding travel reimbursement and team building. Ms. Hoffman.
Thank you. This resolution has an Exhibit A, which is actually both of the policies that we've talked to you about in the last couple of weeks. We have both the travel reimbursement policy and then the team building policy, which was just discussed. And I do want to let our employees know we did think about and consider, what they're asking about adding more hours, but that didn't seem prudent or the right thing to do this year. But I know the city manager may have ideas regarding that as well. So I'll let him. Okay. At any rate, so what we would be doing tonight with this resolution is adopting the two policies. It would amend the employee handbook to add these two things. And the team building doesn't exist currently in the handbook, but the travel reimbursement does. It'll just be making amendments to the current policy.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Hoffman. At this point, questions for Ms. Hoffman or Mr. Moore, if you have anything else you want to add at this point?
I'll just add that one consideration I had was that in some of our departments, hers, and hers, they're not sizable enough to really navigate a lot of hours for team building. So I wanted to start modestly to see if we can figure out how to manage that, because essentially for those departments, if they are going to go out collectively, they're closed. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something I want to make sure we can manage. Public Works is much different. They've got 120 some people, 7 divisions, a little bit more flexibility, maybe a lot more flexibility to continue their operations during some team building activities without shutting down entirely. And so I just want to see how that works. And that was my thinking about starting modestly. I agree with what our employees said, though. It's something I want to add for the reasons that they mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Ms. Riccio.
I want to add a question and a comment. Does this include the fire department and the police department having team building opportunities?
It's for everyone. Theirs, of course, is managed a little bit differently because, you know, they've got to be ready to roll if they're on duty. And so, you know, it's up to the chiefs and their teams how to navigate that.
Okay. Then just a comment, for 50 years I worked in the private sector, the federal government, state government, and in the instances, and they were all different, some had team building, some had none, some had personal development. I just think this is a wonderful way to go. I think we're trending in the right way. 4 hours is obviously not enough, but it's a really good beginning. We're not that big of a city, and I bow to the staff, the HR staff and the administrative staff, to determine what's in the best interest. But philosophically, I like it.
Thanks.
So thank you for going that way.
Thank you, Ms. Riccio. Ms. Brault, you're up next.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank our city employees that came and spoke on this matter. Thank you for stepping up and sharing your thoughts on this. I guess I do wonder, because I feel like we had some consensus last meeting that 4 hours seems like it's not enough, especially as you mentioned, if you look at a department like Public Works that just has so many employees. And just thinking that, you know, we're only in the month of February at this point, and we've got a lot of the year left. Is it possible we could maybe take another look at this policy a little bit down the road this year and see, especially how it's affecting an apartment that's so large? Because I feel like a year is just a long time to have to go if they've only got 4 years for team building, and it would just be nice to maybe look at it sooner rather than later in case we do want to look at increasing those hours in the policy. And because I also think maybe just adding something about having it be at the director's discretion, or just some flexibility would be nice, I think, as we're trying to manage how best to fit this policy.
That's a good point. And one of the things that I was considering was uniformity and exactness, I think, are 2 different things. But at the same time, I didn't want to create, not knowing what I don't know and how this is really going to work in the smaller departments, I didn't want to create a circumstance where in the smaller departments they couldn't use it, they hadn't figured out how to use it. Well, there might be a feeling of inequity because in Public Works you've got a little bit more wiggle room because of the size, how they can balance the work. If some of the folks are out for team building, there's still some backfill. Where in, say, Kat's department, that's really not the case. And I wanted to see how that was going to sort out before creating the haves and have-nots. And I don't know that that would happen, but I just wanted to see. So that was some more of the thinking that I was putting into it. But certainly, I mean, all these things are always, we're going to get feedback for sure, you know, over the course of the next few months.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess I would just appreciate that the feedback is shared with us so we can kind of see how scalable the policy could be.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brault. Any further questions from council before I ask mine? Okay. So can you give us kind of, just to kind of, because I'm going to piggyback off of what Ms. Brault just mentioned, Mr. Moore, like, can you give us kind of a timeline on when we could potentially reevaluate this?
Let's give it 6 months. See what we think. I mean, I know that Public Works likes the idea a lot, and I knew that before. What I want to see is to make sure that the other departments are able to get at it, right? I mean, if we authorize 12 hours, I know that's workable, probably in Public Works. It's probably not for Ms. Benson, because that means she's going to be closing up to, 3 or 4 times. And during the day to go do that. And I'm not sure that we've figured that out yet. And it's only, and I'm only emphasizing that because of just the numbers of people that work in some of the departments. Ms. Hoffman's the same way. You know, if she's going to take her team out, the department is closed.
Yep.
And, you know, we can work through that. I just want to make sure we've got our, you know, procedures in place for working through that. But if 6 months is good for everybody, we'll circle back midsummer, probably, you know, before the budget comes out.
I mean, just speaking just for me, I can tell you, my initial thought is 6 months is a really good reevaluation period. And the other thing is, I think Mr. McCord hit the nail on the head, you know, as far as discretionary decision-making by some of the department heads. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe that's the right answer. I think it's certainly a conversation worth having. So this is a really good starting point, though.
Mr. Heisler, I will add to that. We do have that right now for what I would consider sort of internal things on or around, in or around the office. You know, there are cookouts and stuff that happen now. It's not like you've got to have your nose to the grindstone and somebody's going around checking everything. If somebody on a nice day is out doing that, you know, out back of wastewater or water or out at the municipal service center, PD or whatever, this is more of making sure that we're all on the same page. If somebody's going to leave, especially if they're going to leave, be on the road, that way they're protected. If, you know, there were an accident of some sort and they're traveling or moving about under the guise of this policy, they're good. We don't have to worry about that. I was trying to create that path as well.
Sure, excellent. Well, again, just echo the comments of my colleagues. I think it's a really, really great starting point, and I'm really glad we're addressing this and evaluating it because, as others have mentioned, there's no cost involved here to the city as far as, you know, morale boosting, which is a wonderful thing. So with that being said, I'm going to defer back to Mr. Schuessler.
Said, Mr. President, I don't know if that discretion thing would work real well because people always, you got this and she didn't get
There's, I mean,
a thing to work out. I don't know anything about human HR, but I'm a little concerned about that discretion.
Understood, and it's an excellent observation for sure. With that said, anything else from council on this, or I'm going to go ahead, Ms. Riccio. Second opportunity.
Concerns on that, Mr. Moore mentioned early on the word equity. And equity isn't the same, and it's not, you know, not equal. It's equity. You know, 130 employees opposed to 5 employees in the department. As long as the city management, city staff is, their integrity is toward equity, I think that the department heads will be able to figure out how to balance all that.
Thank you, Ms. Riccio. At this point, we've, I think, included all councilors' comments, so we'll have a resolution here. I need a motion and a second to move forward. (9106), so moved by Ms. Riccio. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Brault. Thank you both. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. There we go. We got it. It passed unanimously. Thank you. All right. We'll move on now to item C, which is the resolution 9107. That's a resolution granting a utility easement to Alliant Energy at Playmore Park. Mr. DeVries, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Heisler. The location of this easement, Playmore Park, I think we're very familiar with that since the recent improvements out there. The easement request from Alliant is similar to other ones that have come to the city for their above-ground gas regulators. So right now they have underground facilities that are aging, and they want to be able to move them, upgrade them, and make it safer for everybody above ground. We have examples of this at Franklin Park already and Buttermilk, and then over on the north side of Fairgrounds on 9th Street. This would be a 12 by 20 enclosure with a fence and landscaping in the far southeast corner of the park, so far away from any of the improvements, not really visible in front of Seymour where you can see everything there. So we felt it was a good location. It's not going to interfere with any of the future park improvements because we've pretty much done almost all we can to that park. So we don't see any negative impact in the future. So with that, I would recommend approval and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. DeBreeze. Appreciate it. Questions from council for Mr. DeBreeze on this? Seeing none of those questions, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve 9107 by Mr. Mullen. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ricchio. Thank you both. Further discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. DeBreeze. And on to 9108, that's action item D, which is a ordinance amending chapter 216 to animals to address trap, neuter, spay, and release program, the TNR program. Ms. Hoffman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This is actually just a resolution. We're going to adopt the policy. We are going to pass an ordinance and change some things too. But this is the policy as opposed to adopting a TNR ordinance, which we didn't want to do because we didn't want to lose our high flyer status for Bird City. So attached, there are two, it's the same ordinance. One of them includes encouraging microchipping, and one of them makes no mention of microchipping. So that would be your choice. If you would want to pass this policy, you need to let me know which one you want to do, if you want to include the microchipping or not. And I also want to note, we did, there was some, I had inelegantly worded part of the policy, but I've made it clear the research goes both ways regarding the feeding of feral cats and whether or not more or less birds are killed. Because before I just simply said the research goes both ways, and it made it sound like I didn't think cats killed birds. And we are well aware that cats do in fact kill birds. So this clarifies that. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Hoffman. Mr. Mullen, you're first.
First, I'd like to thank everybody who's worked on this program. I know it's kind of a long haul to get to this spot. And I think the compromise worked out whereby citizens and shelters who want to work on a TNR program can within the law, and yet we don't jeopardize the city's Bird City designation. So I think that's very good. I just want to say briefly on the question of microchipping. In this case, in terms of a TNR program, you know, if a feral cat is caught, I really don't care if he's microchipped. In fact, I think it's probably a good idea. Just it makes it a little easier for data collection in the future. I feel a little differently about the ordinance, and we'll talk about that later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Ms. Ricchio?
My question is procedural.
Yeah.
Giving out the two options we have to like call for microchipping or to do the other one which doesn't call for microchipping. How are we proceeding?
Excellent question, Ms. Hoffman.
What are we deciding on?
If you would move to pass resolution 9108, you would say 9108, the policy with microchipping or the policy without microchipping.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you for the question, Ms. Ricchio. Any other comments from council about that? At this point, I'm going to add my comments. I concur with what Mr. Mullen had to say. I believe that the microchipping is, I don't believe we need to do that. I think there is an expense that is already associated with pet ownership. I don't think we need to add to it. And I think the other thing about microchipping is remember that microchipping takes care of the owner and takes care of the animal, which is both great things, but there's not really a monstrous societal good or safety fix with a microchip, in my opinion. It reunites lost pets, which is a wonderful thing, but I would be opposed to moving forward with something that contained mandatory microchipping and an extra cost to citizens. With that being said, Mr. Mullen, the button is pushed.
We're just talking about the policy right now. So this does not require someone who is in the business of catching, trapping, neutering, and releasing feral cats. It doesn't require them to even do that. It's just a policy of the city, and the policy is saying it's a good idea to microchip, but it does not require.
Correct.
As opposed to the ordinance, which is coming next, which does have that obligation. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. Great clarification. Thank you, sir. All right. So with that being said, Ms. Ricchio, second opportunity, go ahead.
The point of this, what we're doing. D.
Clarification one more time, Ms. Hoffman?
Supersede or be underwhelmed or overwhelmed by the next step. I'm just not sure why.
Okay.
Policy in relation to the ordinance.
The policies regarding TNR, the ordinance changes deal with existing ordinances that we have regarding cats, so that if someone was doing TNR, they wouldn't be abandoning their cat. That's what we're trying to do. And we're also undoing the cats needing to be like on a leash or in control. It just doesn't make that much sense for cats. That's what we're doing in the ordinance.
This policy kind of deals, our options are to deal with microchipping or not microchipping.
We do have within that ordinance, we did add microchipping. So again, you're going to have two choices when you get to the ordinance as well. Either you're going to require microchipping or you're not going to require microchipping. So when they get licensed, they'd also get microchipped.
I'm still confused. And what are we voting for on this one?
The policy, just a policy, a city policy on trap, neuter, release.
Okay. And then the specific details of that will be addressed in the ordinance.
Correct. And more specifically, the ordinance, what we're trying to do with the ordinance changes is avoid creating conflicts in the ordinance with the policy.
I think my brain is exploding.
It took a little while to get through all this. It did for us too.
I get it now. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Good clarifying questions. Thank you all. And with that, I think comments from council are concluded. So with that, I think we're ready to entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve the policy with microchipping.
Approve the policy with microchipping is the motion from Mr. Mullen. Is there a second? This is the feral cats portion of this policy. Second by Ms. Brault. Further discussion from council at this point. Seeing none, please proceed to vote. Mr. Zimmerman and Ms. Ricchio opposed. The ordinance passes by majority vote. Sorry, resolution passes by majority vote. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Schuster. My apologies. Okay, on to the ordinance now. Thank you. Which is the second half of this. Ms. Hoffman, any further comments? Anything else we need to clarify?
This one, again, what we were trying to do within the ordinance is avoid creating conflict with a policy. So we changed a definition for owner to make it clear that someone that perhaps trapped a feral cat and had them microchipped and vaccinated and had their ear tipped, because they would have fed them and they probably would be on their property for a while, but then they're going to take them back to where they got them. They're not an owner. They don't fit the and so what we tried to do is change our definition of owner so they don't accidentally become an owner. That's one of the things we did. We did some cleanup too, because we do not have an animal control officer, so we took out that. We changed the animal shelter to simply adopt the state definitions. And then again, as we just had with the policy, we have two ordinances. It's 3782A or 3782B. A is requiring licensing and microchipping of dogs and cats. B will not be requiring microchipping.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. Mr. Mullen, you're up first.
Thank you. As I said before, thanks to everybody who's worked on the TNR part, and I understand that part of TNR was to harmonize our code. And so I thank you for all the work so all the work that was done on TNR meant more work that had to be done on code. So thank you to everybody who participated in that. Now, I'm in favor of all the changes in there except one, and that's microchipping for pets. And while I think it's okay to microchip feral cats that are caught and released as part of a program, just because it's easier to keep track of, an orange tabby with an ear tab the third or fourth time you catch them, it's nice to know that. I don't feel the same way about pets, and I'll tell you why. So licensing and the concomitant proof of rabies vaccination that goes along with it is a public good. Because rabies is so dangerous, it makes sense for the government to require that its pet population be vaccinated against rabies for the good of everyone. Microchipping, on the other hand, while it undoubtedly benefits the owner and the pet, especially if the pet is lost and possibly injured, you need to know who owns this. You got to be able to find the owner so you can do something about it. It provides little benefit for the rest of the community. Now, both vaccination and microchipping are invasive procedures, but microchipping is more invasive. You're actually implanting a device in the body of a pet. And therefore, I'm not comfortable requiring that pet owners by law microchip their pets, even though I think it's a good idea. There's also the cost and a slight risk of complication from that procedure as well. So for those reasons, I would support the B version of this ordinance amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mullen. Ms. Brault, you're up.
Thank you. So I do have a question about the microchipping. Would there be a penalty if someone did not microchip their pet under the ordinance that included microchipping?
I know in like the 12 years I've been here, we haven't written any tickets for anyone that doesn't have their animal licensed. So I don't think we would start with the microchip tickets either. But I mean, it's not that it couldn't happen. I mean, it would be something that could be punishable, and they could choose to start writing tickets. I can't say the microchipping has. I mean, I think the police department and the rescues have found it a great benefit because rather than having to take that animal into custody and have it be impounded, they get it right back. And like the statistics on cats, 2% of cats that get impounded get home, except if they're microchipped. Then it goes up to 20%. So that does save us money if they don't have to be impounded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was the point that I wanted to make, is that I think there is some public good in requiring microchipping just because of the amount of resources that it can save, whether it's our police department if they take in an animal, or if it's our rescues or our shelter. Just getting that animal back to their owner is saving everybody time and money. But I do feel like I'm in the minority as far as wanting to require microchipping, so I don't want to put this ordinance in jeopardy. I do want to say, like, I'd like to see us encourage it. And I mean, even if it's not in the ordinance itself, I know we can continue to encourage people to microchip their pets because, it's just such a good thing to have people consider. But, I don't want to say, I'm against the ordinance without it. So I'll concede that point, but I do think it's something that we should keep encouraging our residents to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brault. Let's go to Ms. Riccio next.
Number one, I don't want to have any ordinance. Why have an ordinance that isn't enforceable? And if we're all admitting it's really not enforceable, there's really not a penalty, there's really not a fine, why have yet another ordinance mandating something? And secondly, personally, I don't see microchipping being any part of an ordinance, whether it's for feral cats or pets, because of the financial burden, because of the invasive procedure, like Mr. Mullen says. So I want to see if I have an option here to vote for the rest of the ordinance without including microchipping at all. And my question is, what's the point of microchipping a feral cat if you don't have an address that he's connected to? I mean, I mastered college level statistics, but I'm telling you, this has got me swimming. I'm so out of my depth here, I don't get what's happening, kind of.
It would probably, the microchip would go back to the rescue that had trapped them and gotten them neutered and microchipped.
Does
So,
that then give them some responsibility or something?
well, they could certainly come pick up the cat and return it to, where they'd originally trapped it. So keep trying to get it back to where it was. That's part of the TNR, is the idea you don't want to create a vacuum within the cat colony, and you want that cat to be back where it was.
The whole TNR thing sounds so good to me, but this microchipping thing sounds like a solution looking for a problem, or vice versa. So, is there an option to
Yes, I mean, there's,
ordinance without microchipping?
yes, that's why you have two. You have the 3782A and 3782B. B has no microchipping.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riccio. At this point, I'll just add my comments briefly, and I'll say that while I appreciate everything that Ms. Sproul had to say, I completely concur with what my colleagues just said, and I don't think that requiring the microchipping is something that we need to get in the business of for the pet owner. So I would be much more inclined to move B ahead for this. And so with that being said, I would entertain a motion, obviously for either, but my preference would be B.
To approve ordinance number 3782B.
3782B is on the floor by Ms. Riccio. Is there a second for that? Second by Mr. Zimmerman. Any further discussion? Seeing none of that, please proceed to vote. Thank you all, and 3782B passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Hoffman, for all the clarification. We trudged through that, but we got it done. we got it done. We got it done. That was
dumb. That's so dumb.
All right. With that being said, how's the audio? Are we better? It's just the stream of that. Okay. We had some feedback on the stream that wasn't that good, but we'll work through it. And besides, I don't say anything that important anyway, so we're good. Let's go to ordinance number 3783, which is an ordinance amending various chapters of the code for the city of Fond du Lac regarding loudspeakers, parking citations, amusement devices, mail deliveries. We've got fire prevention, we've got private ambulance providers, tobacco and cigarette licenses, no more May, the chief of police, the chief of police and zoning code changes. Ms. Hoffman, that's a mouthful, but the floor is yours.
Thank you. These are all of the things we went over at the last meeting, along with all of the zoning changes which the Plan Commission considered at their last meeting. So if you have zoning questions, direct them to Ms. Fenton. And if you have questions about the other code things that we talked about last week, I'm happy to address them. And I did, there was, Tiffany noticed an error that I have made a note of that I'll make sure we have cleaned before we send it to general code to put in our book.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Hoffman. At this point, questions for Ms. Hoffman on ordinance number 3783, because there's a lot to unpack with that ordinance. Mr. Mullen, you're first, then we'll go to Ms. Brault right after.
The only thing I had, I went through all this. There was a lot of it. I didn't see anything in here that really gave me any concern. The only question I had was under 500-4, loudspeakers and amplifying systems, section 2, loudspeakers not transported and operated in one location, which means a concert, I assume. Operated between 10 and 10, that's fine. And then no operation shall be made on Sundays after 6 p.m. And I thought that was a little early. I mean, do we have events and things that run on Sunday that might naturally go a little longer than 6? Especially if there's food involved and, I mean, this isn't, you know, having a loudspeaker doesn't necessarily imply a concert. That can just be recorded music or anything like that. So I was, that was about the only thing on this voluminous code cleanup that I had any question about. Word of the day, right there.
I believe that it was just limited to the downtown area. Is that right? Maggie, if you want to click through, there's actually, yeah. But let's see, the backup, click on backup. Okay, and then.
It's way at the top.
Yeah, oh, yeah, there you go.
Number 2.
Right, it's right. Yeah, 504.2 there. Correct. That's our current language. We're not trying to change it.
Okay.
And like I said, Tiffany did note that I missed an 8 and 80, so I will clean that up. Okay. No, yeah, it would. I don't know if we have many events that go past 6 p.m.
On a Sunday.
On a Sunday.
The other comment that I wanted to make, which has really nothing to do with the code cleanup per se and with loudspeakers and amplifying system, is that I hope we will be in the future doing a little more monitoring of these events and trying to get some actual data. It's very hard to write a sound ordinance with just 1 decibel level when you have a neighborhood versus a downtown with businesses that funnel the signs. So I'm hoping that will happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. I'm going to go, I'm sorry, Ms. Brault, you're next.
Sorry, mic's not
You got it now, you're good.
Thank you. So that one does have the 80 in it. So is this what we would potentially be voting on? Because I was looking at a different document that was in with the materials.
Right. Yes, the idea is that, I mean, all the blue is new things that are being added and all the red are things that are being struck. So yes, this would be.
I was looking at, hold on, sorry about the tabs.
Right. And I think it's what you have pointed out to me is that we failed in the clean copy to have fixed that. We will make sure that we have the clean copy that goes to general code reflect that change as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess part of why I'm asking about the different copies is because on the one that I was looking at, under number 2, it does not have that sentence, no operation shall be made on Sundays after 6 p.m. It just ends with, there's just one sentence, loudspeaker is not transported and operated at one location, shall not be operated between 10:30 p.m. and 10 a.m. There's no reference to Sundays in that version. So that's where I'm confused is, do we already have something that limits Sunday evenings or not?
Diane's saying no, not on number 2.
Okay, so would that be a potential addition then, or where did that come from?
I don't. You know what? It is a lot of stuff. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. Because this is supposed to be what it was, and you could see the colors are the changes.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that's there if that wasn't there prior to us bringing it here to you to look at. But we will find out. I mean, because we have, I mean, we have older codes and, you know, we can verify exactly what it was.
Ms. Brault, you are correct. As I'm looking at the code, this is not aligned with it.
Okay.
So we need to clean this up.
Okay. So I guess that should have been blue. No operation shall be made on Sundays after 6 p.m.
This would be an addition that would be included if this was, if council were to pass this evening, that addition would be part of this discussion. Right?
Correct.
Okay, because we're just wondering because the actual copy presented that I'm looking at does not have that in here.
Okay.
The one that would require my signature does not have that in there. Got it.
I don't know. I mean, many people worked on this. I apologize. I don't know why that sentence is there. I guess I'd say let's just consider that it's not there, unless someone wants to make a motion tonight to add it.
Mr. Heisler, may I read to you what the code says?
Yes, please. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
And Maggie, you may. That's right. What Maggie just brought up is what the code says. I think we got a little bit confused because we were looking at a working document just previously, and this is the document. So number 2, you can see there that currently every day of the week is 10:30. You can't operate between 10:30 at night and 10 in the morning. That's regardless of the day.
At this point, we'll just continue the conversation and see where we go from there. I've got Miss Riccio next in the queue.
I am questioning the 6 p.m. This is a different world, obviously, that we live in now. There's a lot of shift workers and remote workers, and their Sunday, their day off, may not end at 6 p.m. on a Sunday. I understand not wanting to go till 10 or 11, but I would also limit that to during the 9 months of the school year. I think anything goes, like 10:30 on a Sunday in the summer, or at least 8 p.m., 6 p.m. You know, we're trying to attract young people to Fond du Lac. We have a lot of bars and entertainment. We're trying to get young families. Back in the olden days when I was growing up, nothing was open on Sundays, nothing. Not even the A&P or anything else. And this kind of seems a throwback to me to end activities at 6 p.m. So I'm probably going to object to the ordinance because of that.
Thank you very much. Ms. Riccio, I'm going to go to Mr. Zimmerman next.
Thank you, President Heiser. Just a question. A lot of stuff going on here. Are we in a time crunch to pass it here tonight?
No.
So would it be awful to table it and bring it back to next meeting just so we're all on the same page?
I wish you would.
So with that being,
No, this is Mr.
All right,
Zimmerman,
let's not
let me,
discuss
all
it.
right, Matt.
Because if we do that, then we can't discuss it further, which I think we should try. I mean, all I'm trying to do here is I think we need to work on building some consensus so that we give a good directive to staff first. Correct. And I don't want to kill the discussion like Mr. Schuessler just made a great point about. So I'd rather not do that yet. I understand totally. I was right there with you. So I don't want to stifle your comments on Mr. Zimmerman. You still have the.
No, I guess that's all I've got. So, I mean, you know.
It's an excellent observation. And
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. With that being said, Mr. Schuessler, floor is yours.
I have no problem with the 6 p.m. Sunday. I live sort of close to there, and it's a lot of residential around there, really, by the fairgrounds. So, but I would like to see us get this exactly the way it's supposed to be before we. I don't think we need a motion or anything. Can't you just say you were drawing request to be acted on until we're ready?
You can hold the whole thing, or
could we just?
You could just pull section 1. Just pull section 1. Right. Because we really don't want to mess up all the zoning code changes that, some people are relying upon. And there hasn't been any question about most of it. It's only been about loudspeakers. So, if you choose to table it, maybe just section 1 on loudspeakers.
Okay, Mr. Schuessler, you good? Can I move on to Mr. Mullen, or do you have anything further? Okay, Mr. Mullen, go ahead.
All right. Since we have so much in this bill, or so much in this code cleanup, and as you just said, there really haven't been any questions about anything else. Everything's good. This one, obviously, there's some clerical errors here that need to be chased down. Can we split this one out? Can we move to excise that and then reconsider that, and then go ahead and consider the rest of the bill without that provision?
Absolutely.
Okay, then at this point, I would like to make a motion that we excise section 500-4 so that we can consider it later once the clerical errors are fixed, and then proceed with discussion and voting on the rest of the code cleanup without that provision.
Understood. Thank you very much, Mr. Mullen, for a clearly stated motion. With that being said, I need a second for that. Second by Ms. Brault. So at this point, we'd be getting rid of that section for future discussion to bring that back. We've got a motion. We've got a second. Any further discussion on this portion? Ms. Brault, you still got that button pushed. Go ahead.
My question is in order with the motion on the table, because I did want to ask for just some summary of the code, or the zoning portion of it. I don't know if that happens now or if we have to vote on.
Point of order, Mr.
Yeah, go ahead. Restate your point.
Right now, we're just considering, the secondary motion, splitting them apart, and then we can get back to the primary motion.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, with that said, motion, second, we're set. Let's vote. Okay, we're moving that to later. Mr. Zimmerman opposed, and everyone else in favor. Mr. Cassidy absent. We're back to the original discussion at this point. Ms. Brault, I'm going to go back to you for that.
Yeah, so my question is just if Ms. Benson could just kind of summarize the main points of that zoning code cleanup, just so, we have a better idea of what's all going on there.
I love to talk about zoning, so of course. So we have, first, we created a neighborhood mixed-use district as part of the comprehensive plan. And so whenever you create a new district, you learn from it. You get the feedback from those that are in the district and developers that are looking in the district. And so they were just looking for some more clarification on expectations. And so we've created kind of a design overlay district for the neighborhood mixed use because we're combining commercial and residential. So it's really clear what we're looking for in terms of those development standards. So that's one of the bigger pieces that you'll see in the ordinance. The other pieces really are there to help facilitate housing. And so we've adjusted, we're creating our office district is now an office conversion district, because we're knowing that office uses aren't exactly what they used to be pre-COVID. And so we're seeing a lot of our office buildings kind of looking for what their next life could be. And under the current zoning code, residential is not an option. And so with the conversion, creating this kind of tweak to that district, it allows for those buildings to be converted with residential when they're adjacent to existing residential. And then the other part of this that we've done is also to align our Board of Appeals language with the state statute. Because right now our Board of Appeals language is a little different from what's in the state statute. So these changes now align the two. So anybody who objects to a decision made by the Plan Commission can come before the Board of Appeals rather than just the applicant. So those are the major changes.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you for the work that went into that, especially the part that's working on trying to make more options for housing, since we know that that's the big area that we need to work on. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brault. Ms. Riccio.
Yes, I too am interested in how we can pursue more housing options. And I like that you're rezoning some existing commercial business to become also Are you saying also residential or residential?
So we're not rezoning. Rezoning is a completely different thing. So what we're doing is we're adjusting the zoning code to allow for additional uses. So offices are still allowed in that district, but now we're also allowing residential in those districts where we wouldn't have allowed it before. And so residential is now allowed when it's adjacent to residential, because we also don't want residential dead smack in the middle of an office park, because that doesn't really make too much sense at times. So when it's adjacent to residential, there's usually close proximity to services and other amenities.
So, isn't that kind of limiting if this existing office?
I will tell you that the majority of our existing offices are currently adjacent to residential. There's only one area of offices that is truly an office park that's not near residential that wouldn't be eligible, but the majority, I would say 99% of our existing office districts are immediately adjacent to residential.
It's a good mix. It's a good
It
mix.
is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ricchio. At this point, with nothing further from council, I would entertain a motion at this time. Motion to approve the amended code cleanup. The amended code cleanup, all right. The trimmed code cleanup, that's what we're calling it. Okay, motion on the floor by Mr. Moen. I need a second for that. Second by Ms. Ricchio. Thank you both. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Thanks for all the help cleaning that up, you guys. Appreciate that. And we'll look forward to discussing the next piece stuff at a further meeting. With that being said, let's move on to, I believe we're on to G now, which is 3784. That's ordinance number, which is establishing a municipal court for the cities of Fond du Lac and Ripon, towns of Auburn, Calumet, Empire, Fond du Lac, Friendship, Oakfield, Osceola, Ripon, Tachita, in Fond du Lac County, the village of Wilson in Sheboygan County, and the villages of Brandon, Campbellsport, Eden, Fairwater, North Fond du Lac, Oakfield, St. Cloud in Fond du Lac County, and the village and the city of Berlin in Green Lake and Waushara counties, the cities of Green Lake, Marquezine, and Princeton in Green Lake County. I felt like I just read a severe weather warning there, but that's the whole thing for you right there. Ms. Hoffman, the floor is yours.
Court and has all of those municipalities in it except Eden. So all this ordinance is doing is adding Eden into Lakeside Municipal Court. And in order to do that under state code, we have to readopt the entire ordinance. So that's why you had that very long title.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hoffman. Appreciate that. Questions from council on ordinance 3784? Seeing none of those? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Ricchio.
Hoffman, what exactly is the municipal court, just for everybody's edification? Does that happen here in this building, or is that something else?
It does, actually, right in this room. They do municipal court.
What kind of crimes or?
It's citations. They're civil forfeitures, not crimes. So they only hear OWI first is probably the most serious offense that goes through municipal court. But it's speeding it's a lot of traffic tickets, underage drinking. Many of those things come through municipal court.
Who's the arbiter in that kind of setting? Who's the judge?
Judge Jerry J. He's been the judge. He's elected. No, he's elected to the municipal court, to Lakeside Municipal Court.
Okay. Why was Eden left out previously? Just oversight or boundaries or?
It's voluntary on their part if they want to be part of the municipal court or not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ricchio. With that, no further questions from council. I would entertain a motion at this point. Motion to approve by Ms. Brault. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Moen. Thank you both. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. And that passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone. And I believe that takes care of all of that. So let's go to, oh man, I gotta rearrange my papers here. Just 1 second. There we go. We got it. Okay, I think we're on to H, right? Which is 3785. That's an ordinance amending the Chapter 400, which is the intoxicating liquor and fermented malt beverages regarding the demerit point system. Ms. Hoffman, you're up.
Thank you. And this is another ordinance we introduced to you at the last meeting and got your input on. we did take into consideration information that we received from citizens and bar owners. And one of the main changes here is within the demerit points. We changed when a bar would have a fight and they don't call the police, they get 80 points. It had been 45. If they bar has a fight and they do call the police, they get 5 points. It had been 10. So that's one of the main changes. We also are adding within here, well, we're basically putting into the code what the practice had already been, is that we meet with, when there's something serious has happened in the bar and they're going to have a lot of demerit points, we meet with them and talk to them about it before we make a final decision on what their demerits are going to be. And this gets added, that's now added into the code. And then we also took out, we do not have a school anymore. There used to be classes that bar owners could take to get some of their points back. And we haven't had that happening at the police department for the last couple of years. And so we're taking that out because it doesn't exist. So anyway, so that's what's in there.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hoffman. Appreciate that. First opportunity, Ms. Ricchio.
Thank you. I'm a member of the ALC. I'm the city council representative on that committee. And we discussed this at our meeting Monday night. And there was a unanimous vote to table it. We don't have a vote in that committee to tell the city council vote this way or that way. We have a recommendation. We have a responsibility to recommend to the city council what we, the ALC, thinks the city council should do about ordinance changes. After a lot of discussion and a lot of information, we unanimously voted in the ALC to table this until our next meeting because we want to find out more information. What we've been told is this is what most municipalities do. This is what we should do. So we really had a long discussion, and we discovered that there are other options for how this ordinance can be written. One thing that we were happy to see that the last time the city attorney came to this body, they had suggested that the length of time that a bar owner is being judged by is 18 months, which would have just penalized the bar owner. The city has since gone back to a 12-month period, which matches when how a license is issued or not. So there's still concerns, like, for instance, selling drugs. If drugs or illegal substances are sold in an establishment, both the owner and the employee who's selling these drugs get 150 demerit points. We have some question about whether that's fair. Why the owner should get some demerit points, but not if it's the employee doing it. You should maybe get some, like 50 or 25. Legal drug paraphernalia. The owner is not in charge of, in possession of knowledge of what is in its customer's pocket. The owner has no way to do that. These owners, yes, they get a license, they're privileged, they understand that, we understand that, but that doesn't mean that they have like X-ray powers or presumptive powers as to what somebody's got on their person or what they might do. And we think this is too onerous on the owners. It doesn't happen with other businesses. We need more clarification on what is intoxicated. There's room for discussion on that. Another huge problem is the penalty enhancers, which are just subjective. Like, yes, okay, we get 85 points for this, that's written down, no discussion needed. But then for each of these serious penalties, there are penalty enhancers, which just a few people in the attorney's office and the police department get to sit around and, without public record or anything, kind of discuss, should we give him the whole 150 enhancer or just 20? Well, I don't know. That's too subjective. So the people on the ALC weren't liking that, and we'd like to look at other options. And bar owners agree that the police department should not be used as their security staff. There should be many steps a bar owner should be taken to ensure the safety of his customers and his environment on his own without using the police department security. And that if they would follow guidelines, if we establish guidelines instead of punitive and arbitrary points, that we think we'd have more buy-in from bar owners around the city. Nothing should be arbitrary in these situations. And so we tabled this in that committee until we could study perhaps another way to write these ordinances and with other groups like the bar owners. And so I am suggesting, I am not making a motion yet, being the first one speaking, but I'm not ready to vote on this ordinance with these minor tweaks. The city said that they met with this one person who was egregiously punished for calling the police in a dangerous situation that wasn't even happening in his bar. But he's still got those points against him. He's got to live till like June 20th without any more infractions or lose his income. So they did not take into consideration any of his very valid recommendations, and that's what we hope can be done next. Just like the previous ordinance, there's no hurry on this one. That's my input.
Thank you, Ms. Riccio. Appreciate that. With that being said, next from council, we'll go to Mr. Mullen.
Thank you. I have a couple points I'd like to make, and then I have a question for the chief. So, again, I'd like to thank city staff, police for working on this. I think the result is a much clearer statement of what is expected of tavern owners. Adding the language about mitigating circumstances and law enforcement cooperation by the licensee is also a good step to spell that out. Making the look back period uniform, I think, was also a plus. And I support the reduction of demerit points for the failure to maintain order police notified. That went from 10 to 5 points. And that makes it easier for the owner to err on the side of caution when it comes to contacting the police when you have a situation that you're worried might get out of hand. And at that level, an operator can call the police 29 times a year and still only get off with a warning from ALC. So I think that's fine. Now, the issue of penalty enhancer points have been brought up. And again, I think the language about mitigating circumstances and law enforcement cooperation addresses this concern. But I think that the police chief or their designee is uniquely qualified to make that determination. And I would not be in favor of giving that to some other group. The ALC right now has the discretion on what it wants to do with the recommendation that the police give. They can impose a penalty or not, issue a warning or not. And before any disciplinary action is taken by the ALC, the owner is entitled to a hearing where they can submit evidence, present witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, and may be represented by an attorney. So the procedures that are already in place are adequate for the vast majority of operators. Operating a tavern possesses a unique potential for public harm. And than running, say, a flower shop. The consequences of lax or reckless operation can be so serious that the regulatory burden placed upon such a business must be higher to protect the public. Anybody wishing to operate such a business accepts this higher level of scrutiny as a condition of them getting a license. They knew what was expected of them when they applied for this license. So I'm in favor of these changes. I like them. Now, I have a question to the chief. Now, we were provided information in terms of how many times demerit points were given in the last year. Just in general, over the last, well, as long as you can remember. How often are demerit points given? Was last year an odd year? Was it less than normal? Was it Or was it pretty typical?
So last year for 2023, to my best of recollection, there were 5 instances of demerit points. Out of those 5, 3 of them actually were gas stations. So outside of what you would relatively think of, but still a licensed facility that has accountability and responsibility. 2 of them then were taverns. I would say that is typical. We have an incredible working relationship with our taverns, our downtown district, our DFP. Just like you've heard even tonight, there is a great working relationship with the owners that do want to do the right thing and call, because there is a lot of responsibility when you do sign on that state form that says you own everything that happens in that establishment. So, you know, what you're seeing from 2023 and those 5 instances, I would say is relatively typical. It's a very small number. What does that tell you? We have a safer downtown area. We have safety, wellness, and health that we concentrate on. We're in the taverns, and we have a great, our officers are in the taverns on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, and have great relationships with the overwhelming majority of license holders. So what you're seeing is what I would say is what we've seen over time.
Thank you. That's all I have for now. Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Further discussion from council at this point. All right, I'm going to go to Ms. Brault next.
Thank you. I guess with Ms. Riccio's comments, being the council member on the ALC, I feel like since this is not something that we have to rush on, we have this in place currently in its current state. I would have to agree with Ms. Riccio's recommendation that we let the ALC continue to discuss it. That's why we have that commission there, is to have citizens and our council representative to discuss issues regarding stuff like this. So I would like to see us just let the ALC have another chance to finish their discussion, since if they did table it, I would assume they weren't expecting on us to vote on it tonight necessarily. So unless someone else wants to speak on it, I would like to make a motion that we send this back to the ALC to continue discussion.
Motion on the floor by Ms. Brault to send this back to ALC. I would need a second for that at this point.
I second that.
That is now seconded. So we've got that on the floor at this point. I'm going to go to discussion on that. So we're going to go specifically to that amendment. Let's go to Ms. Riccio, and then Mr. Schuessler, you're up after that.
I do think that the appropriate place for this belongs with the ALC for now, so that we can do better. Just because we're doing what other municipalities do doesn't mean that's the be all and end all. And like I said, the few changes that were made to the ordinance by the legal staff at this time were nothing major. We can do better than that. We can be a leader in this where other municipalities look at us. Neither myself nor anybody on the ALC supposes or proposes that anybody besides the chief or his designee and the city attorney's office review these things. But I think it should be a more formal process. And speaking on the more formal process, yes, it's true that there are all these avenues for the bar owner to get at the end of his 12-month period, or whenever he has been given all these points where he's in danger of actually losing his license, then he has recourse through the procedure. But that's a long time to wait. That's a long time with his business on the line. And it's an unfair burden, I think, that we're placing on these establishments, that they are living on tenterhooks economically to wait to see what the outcome is going to be. So I just think there's no rush, that we can do better, that there can be more eyes on this. City staff works really hard on this. Police department's excellent, of course. There's no rush on this. I just think there's some unfair processes, especially in the penalty enhancement.
Thank you, Ms. Riccio. Up next, Mr. Schuessler.
There's also the idea that you shouldn't let perfect get in the way of good. And I think these are some good changes, especially the change from 10 to 5 in the reporting. And this is a case where I think we need to support our law enforcement and get something moving forward with an improved ordinance. It doesn't mean that the ALC can continue addressing the subjects that they want to see further improved. We could always come back with another ordinance change. That's what we do all the time. Team building is 4 hours, but we know that that's probably not what it's going to be. So I don't like the idea of waiting for some form of perfection to take action on this.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Schussler. I'm going to go to Mr. Mullen next.
Thank you. If the ALC wanted us to table this motion in front of us and allow them to reconsider, they could have asked us to do that. Is that correct?
I was not at the ALC meeting, so I don't know exactly what they said, but my understanding is they voted to table this. Now, they're advisory to you regarding ordinances. So it's you guys have discretion on whether you could choose to, honor their request to table it and continue to consider it, or go ahead and vote on it now. It's that you have that discretion.
My point is, by tabling the motion, they gave us no recommendation. They could have disapproved it and said, no, we don't like this, and voted against it and asked us not to. They could have amended it, or they could have passed it, but they did neither. We have no idea what their intent is. They could have given us a clear intent, but they didn't. They tabled it, which kills the bill, basically, for them, as far as they were concerned. And like Mr. Schuessler said, there is opportunity in the future if you are going to, if they want to sit down and rewrite the code and take that on themselves, they can do that. But the changes that are in here right now are good. These are improvements. These aren't radical changes, but they are incremental improvements, I think. And passing this now does not prevent ALC coming back with future proposals. But we don't know if they'll ever get there. It's like, we don't like this, but we know there's something much better out there. Well, anybody who's tried to write code and ordinances knows that, yeah, there's always something better out there, but it never comes in front of you. It's always a little bit farther out. So I would not be in favor of postponing action on this tonight. I think we should take action on this tonight. That doesn't prevent ALC or anybody else from continuing to work on this and rewriting new legislation.
I understand. Thank you, Ms. Brault. Ms. Riccio, because you've spoken twice on this topic, I'm going to go to Ms. Brault.
Thank you. So I just have a clarifying question about tabling. So when a motion is tabled, does that mean it's dead, or does it mean it's expected to be picked up at the next meeting?
I mean, it depends if they, it's like table usually means it's dead until they ask to bring it back up off the table. If you say, I want to basically hold it or postpone it until the next meeting, then, and I haven't seen the meeting minutes. I don't know exactly which was the intent. Was it postponed to the next meeting, or if it was tabled? Mm-hmm. People often will say tabled when they actually mean postponed to the next.
Right. So I guess I just don't want us to get stuck on parliamentary procedure when, we have questions about it here at our meetings. I feel like the same would probably happen at ALC. It happens on the board that I'm on. We don't always know necessarily the exact right procedural move. So I guess I'd like to defer to Ms. Riccio to ask, what was the intent that was considered at the ALC?
Can I respond to Ms. Brault? Yeah. The intent was to gather information between now and our next meeting, which is at the end of March. So perhaps table was the wrong word, because we do want to continue to address this. And we do think, yes, there's incremental changes, but not all good. But I understand don't sacrifice the perfect for the sake of the good or whatever, I understand that, but we tabled this in order for these citizens, which it's really unusual for a committee of citizens like this to actually delve into it and to care and to look for more information and to look further. They're already doing a good job by coming and serving on these committees. And for them to actually say, wait, no, I don't want to just rubber stamp this. There's more here. There's something else we can do here. So I think we used the wrong word by table. I haven't looked at the minutes either in this after. But we are looking at this at our end of March meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Riccio. Thanks for the clarification. Mr. Carlton, anything further?
Yeah, I guess just knowing that, I would feel comfortable sending it back to ALC. You know, at some point, we also have to trust the people who are on our boards and commissions that, you know, they can take something up and send a recommendation to us. And since we did not actually get a recommendation because they wanted more discussion, that's what I would prefer to have us do. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you, Ms. Brault. And with that, I'll just add my comments and we'll go from there. My comments would be that I concur with what Mr. Schuessler said. I don't see any reason why we couldn't vote on this tonight and ALC come back to us after their meeting in March or April with their next steps. And I would encourage them to do that because I don't think that it's going to be one of those things that we have to wait forever for. But I do think that a lot of work has gone in to get us to where we are. And I think this is a good starting point, and I would like ALC, I'm sure they'll hear our recommendations from this meeting. I would like them to continue to work on this, but I would also like to move forward with these changes because I think there's a way we can do these now while we wait for them to perfect what is good, as Mr. Schuessler excellently pointed out. So that's where I'm at on that. With that being said, you've spoken twice on this, Mr. Mullins. Where you go brief? Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that the intention to look at this and come up with something better doesn't mean they'll succeed or succeed in a timely fashion. You know, this could go down a rabbit hole and take years for redoing the code. I don't think we should postpone that now. We have a decent bill in front of us. If they do come back with something, I'm happy to reconsider it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mullen. Mr. Zimmerman.
Just kind of paraphrase some things here. I believe in our city staff and I believe in our police department. And I think we have a good action item in front of us, so I'm going to support it. I'm concerned if there is, the ALC was that concerned about it. Nobody here in the crowd is from that group speaking here tonight, so I fully support passing it as is.
Got it. Thank you. Mr. Schuessler, go ahead.
I think the ALC is an amazing committee. I served on it for 1 year, and I don't want them to feel like we're sending a dismissive message to them. I agree totally with what you said, Mr. President. Please address those issues that you listed and come back. They're a very talented group. That particular committee is very talented.
Absolutely. Completely concur with that, Mr. Schuessler. Thank you all very much. Very productive discussion. We have the motion on the table right now to send it back to continue discussion. And then depending on what happens with that, we would then go back to the original. So with that being said, motion on the table, second is there. Please proceed to vote on the amendment, which is to send it back. And the amendment fails on majority vote. Ms. Brault and Ms. Riccio in the affirmative. The rest of us said no at that point. So now we're back to the original, which this is the original ordinance. My apologies, 3785. I would need a motion and a second for that at this point.
At this point, I'd like to move that we approve ordinance 3755.
3785. So moved by Mr. Mullen. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Schuessler. Thank you both. Discussion on the original. Seeing none, let's vote. And that passes unanimously. Oh, nope, I'm sorry. It does not pass unanimously. My fault. Ms. Riccio and Ms. Brault opposed that. So that passes 4-2. My apologies. All right. With that being said, thank you all for a productive discussion on that. We look forward to continuing discussion from ALC with that hopefully at a future meeting. With that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session to consider employment, promotion, compensation of performance, evaluation data, or of any public employee which the governing body has jurisdictional approval over or exercises responsibility. Subject to tonight's closed session is the 2024 city manager performance. I need a motion at this point to adjourn to closed session. Motion to adjourn to closed session by Mr. Zimmerman. I need a second for that. Second. Second by Mr. Mullen. This is not debatable. Please proceed to vote.
Oh, I was just so annoyed when it started.
And we are adjourned to closed session. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.